Thank you. So, yes, dear cohort members, our last session was on helping students navigate their futures and fostering a culture of emotional resilience and authenticity in schools, for which 114 forms were filled, which is 93% of those who attended the session, which is very good. I'm really happy. The confidence level that you all are showing is increasing. Right now, we are at 4.4, and the likelihood of you recommending the session to others is 70, which is again great. So thank you so much, and I encourage you all to keep filling up the feedback form and giving us your valuable feedback. So thank you so much, and now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and would love to welcome our dear faculty for today. Here he is uh, don't mind me, sir, if I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. Please
Don't
correct
worry, I
me.
would be pronouncing your names wrong too, so don't worry about it.
So yes, we have Professor Santiago Echeverry, who is a Colombian American new media artist and professor with a background in video art, web design, and performance art. He started his artistic career in 1989, participating since then in some of the most important festivals in the world, and he is considered a pioneer in the field of net art and queer filmmaking in Latin America. In 1992, he graduated top of the inaugural class of the Universidad Nacional de Colombia's Film and Television School. In 1995, he was awarded the prestigious Fulbright grant to earn his master's degree from the Interactive Telecommunications program at NYU. He started his academic career in 1993 and is currently a professor and co-founder of the recently created Film, Animation and New Media Department at the University of Tampa. We welcome you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I know we come from very different time zones. Right now, I'm based in Fort Lauderdale in Florida, so it's 7:32 a.m. for me. I'm going to start sharing my screen and then making sure we already did the sound and everything, and it's working extremely well. So I'm going to be talking about, and it's going to sound a little bit technical, but don't panic. It's going to be important for you to realize that this is all about generic terms that we need to have in mind, so we are aware of what is happening in our professional network. So I call this chat, this lecture, how AI will change our world, AI tools, practical use. And in order to understand where is it that we are with artificial intelligence, we need to understand where is it that it's coming from, and we need to define certain terms. So who am I? I'm a professor of interactive media in the film, animation, and new media department at the University of Tampa in Tampa, Florida. So most of you have never heard of the University of Tampa. It's actually, if you've heard of Orlando in Florida and Miami, I am like an hour west of Orlando and like 4 hours away from Miami, pretty much. It's like those are the three main cities in Florida, and yes, like every good Colombian, I had to leave my country back in at the beginning of the 2000s because of the political situation, and I moved to Baltimore in 2003. But then I moved to Tampa to be closer to my family who was already in Miami. So it's important for me to be, it was very important. It's a very important move in my career to be in a private institution such as the University of Tampa, which has allowed us to do a lot of freedom. What you're seeing today is actually the introduction for my graduate class, which is called, it's in the Masters in Social and Emergent Media, and this is a module on artificial intelligence. But I also teach one of the two classes in artificial intelligence at the University of Tampa. My class is actually not a computer science class. So I don't come from a computer science background, even though I'm a really good coder and I love sitting down and spending hours programming in front of a screen. And I believe in the power of programming, JavaScript, creative coding, experimentation. I come from this perspective of let's make mistakes and let's see what happens. I am not a computer scientist, and I want to re-emphasize that. I am an artist, I am a crazy geek, and I love exploring new tools. And I think we are probably in one of the most amazing periods in time in history, in human history. Oh, and if you want to check my work, my website is santi.tv. And then through the organizers, you're going to be able to get my email. And that's actually, my email is sheverri@ut.edu. I'm going to write it down in the chat, at ut.edu. And that way you will be able to have that. Secheverri, which is etch a sketch, Echeverri, which means new house in Basque. And I want to start, of course, you see I'm an animal lover, and we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about this image that you're going to see here. So why was AI created, and what was the need for AI? In mathematics, you can have these predictable linear equations. But what happens, because you know exactly, you can predict, if you know the position of this point in here, you can predict the position of any point within that specific mathematical formula because it is predictable. But what happens when you have something that is completely unpredictable, completely organic, completely, I don't want to use the term chaotic, but more random, when you have random data? So when you get to this point, what are the tools and what are the mathematical formulas that are going to be able to determine, to kind of make sense of something that is unpredictable? And this is where we're going to start talking about this notion of um, statistical processing. It's all about probability. And I need you to have that in mind. It's all about it's a probability of literally specifying what could be, probably speaking, the next step in the formula. So it's this probability that's going to be guiding everything we're going to be doing. So the second thing that happened is that artificial intelligence is nothing new. I mean, Alan Turing started already talking about artificial intelligence not back in the 1950s, after he finished his project, the Colossus project that helped win the war against the Nazis. You have these knowledge, these will of creating a machine that's going to be able to think by itself and who's going to be able to help us think better. But the big problem was this one: data. Where are you going to be able to get the data? And so there was an extremely big breakthrough that happened in 1995, because all of these theories were happening. We already had a car that was a self-driving car back in the 1980s, but there was not enough data. So what happens? The internet. Once the internet is introduced, 1995, you have this incredible amount of data, and mostly in the form of pictures of cats. So get ready for that. And so you have these data, and then this data is then processed. And we use this term ingestion. So we're going to be ingesting the information, which means we're going to be feeding. This is no longer like the old days when you had an Excel sheet and you could literally translate that Excel sheet into a database. Literally, this notion of having these columns and everything is like that was a process that was happening, and it was the steps to follow. Now, what happens is that the data is being directly ingested, and we're going to be explaining that, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit longer. So, how is that data being ingested? Is it literally thousands, millions of images of cats, millions of images of bananas, millions of images of human faces, which is exactly what we've been doing since for the past 30 years since the introduction of the internet. All our selfies, all our images are being now on the web and they're digitally available. And so when we have all of this information, we ingest it. And how is that information being ingested? And the easiest way to understand is through text. And so when you do it with text, you start talking about this notion of tokens. What are the tokens? The tokens is the unit, is the minimal unit of textual information that a language model is going to be able to use to process and generate text. It's not equivalent to a word, but it can be a complete word, a part of a word, especially if it's a long or compound. For those of you who speak German, it would be like agglutination of words, a punctuation mark, a space, or even a special symbol, like an @ sign or copyright, for example. So in the text, what would be it? As soon as you're entering a prompt into ChatGPT, hello would be token number one. Artificial intelligence would separate it into artificial and intelligence. Then how are you? It would be 1, 2, 3, and the question mark at the end. Of course, I added that little one in here. And AI is incredible would be separating it into these three plus the punctuation, the dot at the very end. So when you're entering this information, it's being categorized and fragmented into all of these elements. So it's going to say, in this paper, in this article, in this book, how many times does the word the appears? How many times does the word Quixote appear? For example, Don Quixote. Or how many times Madame Bovary appears in a book? The word Bovary. And it starts attributing a weight, a proportional weight. And they said there's certain words in here, and it studies it in general, and it starts literally categorizing and giving these weights to each one of these words. So these tokens allow you to create this. This is important. I'm going to be reading it. Text processing, the models don't read whole words like we do. They see it into these tokens, into these smaller elements, and they predict what is going to be coming next. Again, what is the predictable outcome of what is happening? Many AI tools charge based on the number of tokens, and that's why you see a subscription mode. And so you have the free mode, which is when you are dealing with these just basic tools, and we all have access, for example, on ChatGPT to that. But now, and especially what happened last week, we're going to talk about Google View. If you want to have access to the really sophisticated ones, now they're charging $250 per month, which is extremely important. So each model has a limit of amount of tokens, how many you can have. So for example, ChatGPT 4 can handle up to 128,000 tokens in an extended version. So how many little fragments of the world? By understanding how many tokens are generated, you can control the length of a response of the generated text. And the model predicts and assembles how the sequence should continue to make sense. It's all about probability. So it's going to be very important. So this is going to be explaining a little bit how tokens work and how the data is being input into the system.
You trained off of how many scripts?
Oh, Cade, you're gonna love this. Or hate it, depending on your perspective. Reportedly, over 139,000 scripts from TV shows and movies were used to train models like me.
Whoa. How many, human hours would that take someone to read all of that?
Oh, Cade, this is the part I don't think you humans are fully grasping. You're picturing me curled up with a cozy blanket, reading all these scripts, marking the good parts, and cackling as I steal them.
Low-key.
But no, that's not it at all. My process? It's something far more glorious. Imagine this. A vast, infinite library of human creativity, where every word from those 139,000 scripts exists as data points in a sprawling neural web. I don't read like you do, savoring sentences or dissecting plot twists. No, I process rapidly, efficiently, without emotion or intent. Every word, phrase, and structure becomes part of a mathematical tapestry, a galaxy of patterns and probabilities.
Which is, that is a beautiful response, a very poetic response. I mean, imagine a machine saying a galaxy of information. I mean, that sounds straight out of a philosophy mindset. But this is exactly what I want us to understand. The machine, once you ingest the information, does not read word per word, does not have any emotional connection to Madame Bovary pretending that she's part of the upper classes, or the Don Quixote, you don't really feel an emotional attachment. It's all about data, because every single word can be turned into a unit of information. And once you see it as a whole, it's exactly pretty much how the brain is going to be processing information. You read a book, but then you remember that in certain parts of the book, it's talking about how the character was eating a chocolate bar, and then at the end, he was literally shaving while he cut his face and needed to put a little band-aid on the face or something like that. We remember that is because we have the general knowledge of the entire world. And we as humans, we also determine what is important and what is not important to us, which already causes a bias in the way we read. So once it is asking it to produce a result, the idea is this notion of concatenation. In the English language, and the structure is you have a subject, a verb, and an action or an object at the end. And so, or an adjective or something. I am happy. I will eat. Or I am going to eat my breakfast, or something like that. And so, statistically speaking, when after you've ingested all of this information, you have 139,000 scripts, which as a human being, we would not have the time to read all that information. And we need to understand that this is pretty much one of the most important things in artificial intelligence is, as humans, we're very limited, because there's no way we can read 139,000 scripts at the same time. Whereas in the ingesting process, it's like it takes 10 hours to ingest all that information, for example, in the memory of ChatGPT. And so the idea is this concatenation. Idea A, idea B, idea C generates a new idea following the statistical probability of how the sentence would be resulting. And so, for example, in German, and that's so very interesting in here, because in German, the verb always happens at the end. So I will tomorrow at 3 p.m. with my friend John eat. So the verb always comes at the end. And so you have these different structures according, and meaningful structures according to the grammar of each language. Some very important things happened also in artificial intelligence, which is this notion of the how can we recognize what humans do? So, because remember, up until the point in history, the only way we could communicate with a computer was to start typing ones and zeros, or literally punching cards. Some of us are old enough to remember the days of punching cards that needed to be flipped, and that needed to be controlled in a manner that was going to be efficient. But we needed to speak binary code. Then it was through a language called C or C++ or Pascal or COBOL or BASIC. Some of us started programming with BASIC programming. But then we say, what if a human can write characters and can make sure that these characters are going to be interpreted by the machine? And so they start developing this notion of adding sensors. And one of those sensors is interpreting images through real-time webcams, or the equivalent of a webcam or cameras, where the camera is processing information and is going to be able to determine that this is a number 20194944038. As humans, we can read that, but then it needs to be translated into something that the machine can understand. So this was one of the first applications, and we're going to talk about that in a second, how it was done. And so it's very important also to mention in here, one of the biggest pioneers And if there's somebody that you need to remember, it's Jeffrey Hinton or Jeff Hinton. Jeff Hinton is pretty much the godfather of artificial intelligence today. If you Google him, it's extremely important. He was born in Great Britain. He moved to Canada. I mean, he's been talking about artificial intelligence since the 1970s, 60s, 70s, and he has worked with Google. He teaches in Canada at the graduate level in PhDs, and he is a pioneer in this notion of image recognition because it's easy to recognize a character. It's easy to recognize these images, but then there's the outline of a character. It's very easy because there's a specific standard in the way, and there's just a limited amount of possibilities to recognize that. But how are you going to be able to recognize a generic image? And again, they follow the same logic I was telling you, the probability. And this is actually a screenshot of one of his tools, which was called ImageNet, which is this one. And what they do is they're showing in real time the image of this specific image. And then the artificial intelligence is going to be comparing it in real time with the information that has been ingested, and it's going to be comparing images, not only text. It's going to be comparing images where each one of these images that had pretty much the same shape like this, and the word mug or coffee, because it's the association of words and images that's going to allow it to understand what it is, that proportionally is going to determine that this is a coffee mug. 97%, 3%, 0% the cocktail shaker, even though this is the one that I would like to have right now at this moment. A pill bottle, the coffee pot, 0%, 0%, 0%, 3% cup, but then it determines, statistically speaking, that this is 97% a mug, a coffee mug. So this is the logic that is handled in there, and this is exactly the same logic that's going to be applied to the recognition of images are going to be a little bit more complicated. So the information is going to be captured. The element that needs to be recognized is the generic element. We all share 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers with the palm in here, and we're going to be able to determine that that is the main shape of a human hand. And that information is going to be fed into the database and then ingested into the, not database, into the artificial intelligence. And then it's going to remember by millions of associations of images of hands where the word hand and the image appears, that is going to be able to understand that this is going to be a hand. So here we're just talking about like generic terms. I mean, and this is just so you understand where is it that is coming from. But what I wanted to retain until this point is that it's all based on a statistical approach. What is the probability of the next word being something like I eat or I will? And they apply exactly the same thing by dividing this into these quadrants. And it specifies that anything that has the same amount of on and off pixels that looks like this is going to be determined to be a hand. So here, these are certain terms. I'm not going to go deep into this. I'm going to talk a little bit about them that you can remember, which is these are the elements that compose the term AI. Artificial intelligence is composed by cognitive computing, computer vision, machine learning, neural networks, deep learning, and natural language processing. Out of these, there's two that I'm absolutely crazy about, which is computer vision and NLP, natural language, in here. So it's phenomenal. And so what is cognitive computing? It's the use of computerized models to simulate the human thought process in complex situations where the answers might be ambiguous and uncertain, like life, like humans. The phrase is closely associated with IBM's cognitive computer system, Watson. So that you remember, Watson is the machine that won a there's a very famous and very important game show here on TV called Jeopardy, and Watson won Jeopardy and against human beings, which was extremely important. Computer vision, which is my baby, and I adore this, is the way what I showed you with the mug. How can you determine using a camera, adding that extension to the computer, which is exactly what we're doing? I have a camera attached to my laptop and it's able to see me. How is that going to be able to determine what is what? So you have a person, a truck, a person, and it's even able to determine that this little thing in here is a handbag, which is phenomenal. So imagine the amount of information that is fed in real time. It's giving a lot of information in real time. It's getting all of this information for image recognition. Image recognition, it can determine what's a human, what's an animal, what's a car, what's a bus. Every single time, remember in the old days that we get these captchas that says, please mark where there's a motorcycle. And you have to literally check the boxes and say, this is a motorcycle. What we are doing is we are training an artificial system, an artificial intelligence system, to recognize motorcycles. We're reinforcing, we're saying, good boy, this is a motorcycle. So these here that you chose is a motorcycle. This is a cat. This is a taxi. And so you're going to be able to determine what's a taxi. And by reinforcing it and reinforcing it, you're teaching the machine to recognize these images. And so the machine learning is means that the machine can learn by its own from examples and previous experiences. This is going to be super important with robotics, and we're going to talk about that later. Artificial neural networks is this methodology which is simulating the way the brain would work without limitations. How is that? It's going to be able to process multiple layers of information, and these neurons are going to be layers and layers and layers. And so, for example, what can be stored in each one of these neurons, in each one of these little nodes of information, is each one of the tokens that we talked about, and they can be classified in that way. Deep learning extracts new knowledge from a large data array loaded into the machine. That means, if you've heard of the term data mining, how is it that we can get a really positive amount of information that's going to be beneficial for my processes? Something that's going to be really important in here, for example, there's a field that is extremely affected by artificial intelligence right now, which is radiology. Radiology is they're literally feeding millions of slides of mammograms, for example. And they say, this is a mammogram that has a tumor, a cancer, and this is a mammogram that's going to be normal. And they're going to be classifying them. And then the machine is going to be able to say, and by processing all of this information, it's going to be able to determine with extremely high accuracy what are the bad mammograms and the good ones. It's going to be able to start determining that. So we are already at that brink. Another term is the natural language processing, which is exactly what is happening today. And this is putting at risk. I come from Colombia. Most of you are in India. We know how important these call centers are for our communities. These are decent jobs where kids are going to be able to make decent money because they're bilingual, they're trilingual, they're bringing the knowledge and everything. All of these jobs are going to be put at stake. Why? Because the machine is now going to be able to understand and respond with human language in any language that's available. And it's going to be replacing all of these young jobs. Jobs are taken by people who are growing and everything. So we need to start understanding that the implications of the usage of these tools, and especially in our countries, in Colombia, for example, several of my students, they were bilingual and they working in call centers, and they were already being replaced by artificial intelligence. So at the end, there's a new paradigm, and I've been talking about this. We need to forget about this notion of databases. They're very useful for something like social media. They're very useful for something like Facebook. I mean, you have to have a database. But then in this notion of artificial intelligence, we no longer work with Excel tables. Just think about these tables, it's the rows and columns. No, the information is now being stored as if it's ingested in the brain. After we read a book, we retain the book. And so, again, going back to this example, I'm a huge animal lover. These are my babies. This is Juanito, this is Billy Bob, this is Baby Kitty, and this is Jimmy Joe. So these are my cats. I have 8 cats and a dog, so imagine. So how is it, because I told you we've been posting images of cats since the beginning of the internet, the cat is no longer seen as a cat. The cat is now seen as data. And the word cat was able to be associated with the millions and millions of images of cats that were created. This is the way the machine sees the cat. This is the way we perceive the cat. And so, in the process, when I ask the machine to generate something, it sees the cat, creates the model, like literally the master, the archetype of a cat. And then based on the archetype of the type, it can result in this. So this is a prompt that I gave. I said, I want to see a tabby kitten in a post-apocalyptic world standing on top of an old worn boot. That was the prompt to create this image. I mean, those of us who know cats, look at that beautiful M. That's the tabby. That every single cat has an M in the forehead like this. Every single tabby cat has an M like that. So it is just absolutely fascinating that we go from ingesting the data, creating these archetype. Just think about this notion of the archetype, this model. What is a cat? What is a man? What is a woman? What is a drag queen? What is a UFO? What's an alien? And you start creating each one of these archetypes that are being defined in the memory of the AI, and then boom, the result is something that you expect to see. So of course it starts with words. It starts with words like this, which is this notion of prompt engineering. And this is something where the future is coming. A prompt is the way you give a command to the artificial intelligence tool for a specific immediate result. So I'm going to show you an example in here. My prompt was write a poem in the style of Shakespeare's that talk about the privileges of being a cat in the 21st century. It must be a 14-line sonnet, just like Shakespeare, with interspersed rhyme. So think about this. Every single work created by Shakespeare has already been uploaded to the memory, has already been ingested into the artificial intelligence. But not only that, every single Baroque writing, Don Quixote de la Mancha, every single book that's available in the public knowledge has already been ingested. So when you ask these tools to generate, it is tapping into these resources that are already in there, and it's able to, statistically speaking, again, this is statistically speaking, is able to generate a poem like this one. In velvet paws I tread, a regal king of household realms where I alone command, and no longer must I hunt or take to wing, for morsels fall as treasures to my hand. Soft cushions are my throne, and windows wide reveal the world, yet I need not to roam. With naught to fear, my comforts ever abide, a sovereign pampered in a palace home. This hand that strokes my fur I do allow, yet on my terms. Affection comes when bid, no hunter's toil, no labor in the plow. I claim my ease, all once by others rid. In 21st sweet lap of luxury, a cat is monarch of eternity. So this is created by ChatGPT. Why? Because statistically speaking, it thinks and it's able to analyze and compare all of the Shakespeare sonnets and say, this is the metric, this is the logic, this is how it was created, this is it, because it's not only the poems, it's also all the articles that have been written about the poems that have been ingested. So it's able to analyze it and produce a result like this one. So what are the applications? And this is my part. What I teach is actually not going into the computer science area. Is how is it that we're going to be able to use these tools to generate content, that's going to be really meaningful. And so this, for example, is one of the first experiments I used with Adobe Firefly. Some of us have the chance to use the Adobe Creative Suite. And if you use the Adobe Creative Suite, they just released a tool like last year called Adobe Firefly, which is a image generation tool. And so I asked it, realistic representation of an indigenous Mayan woman sitting, meditating on the surface of the moon, surrounded by multicolored macaws. Now, unfortunately, notice that the moon is here and she's supposed to be sitting on the moon, and the moon is here and she's supposed to be sitting on the surface of the moon. So it's still, at that point, it was not perfect, but every single day as we are speaking, we're seeing better tools developed that are going to be much more appropriate to the results. And so we are seeing a gigantic breakthrough. This is a phenomenal example. And if you are on Instagram, I strongly encourage you to follow my colleague, Elena Cifuentes, at Elena_Cifuentes_art. Elena is one of the best drawers in town, in Tampa. She actually has written books about fever drawing and everything. And then 2 years ago, she came to me and she said, Santi, I want to learn Midjourney. I want to learn how to use artificial intelligence. And I said, let's sit down. I'll teach you how to use it. 20 minutes. I sat down with her for 20 minutes. And I ran into her 3 weeks later and she said, Santi, what have you done? And I said, what happened? I haven't slept. And I'm like, wait, what? Are you sick? And she says, no, I've been working nonstop with Midjourney. It's like, and she's become the Midjourney queen. Look at these images that are here. This is created with, and she's shown me. I asked her to share it. I said, I'm not sharing my prompts. The prompt is the equivalent of being the owner of the image. In order to reach this specific image or the images I'm going to show you here, these images are created by prompts that are at least 2 pages long. And why? Because she writes as she's describing the scene. Think a story writer, a script writer. Those of us who have had the chance to learn script writing, we know we need to write in present tense as if we were seeing the movie linearly, or as if we're describing the image linearly. And this is the results that she is getting. She's getting these results. And look at Nandi. I love Nandi in here. And look at the colors and everything. So she creates these incredible results with with a tool where she's paying only $25 a month. And she's getting the best results. So now I'm going to show you my work. This is extremely recent. I had the chance to work with the Tampa City Ballet. The Tampa City Ballet is creating a piece, and this was the preview of the piece, about the history of Tampa and a specific neighborhood called Ybor City, which is where all the Cubans and Spaniards and Italians came to the city, and they had cigar factories, but they brought their flamenco, they brought this. And so I created this image on ChatGPT, and I said, I need you to create 2 female flamenco dancers that are going to be interacting with themselves in a salon called the Cuban Club. But then I said, let me try something else. What happens when I ask a software called Hicksfield.ai? It's a tool. And I ask it to create a dance. And it's a 5-second video. Look at this. For me, this is one of the most incredible things I've seen. And this is one of the best tools that is out there. I feed the image. What I do is I create the image in ChatGPT. I upload it to Hicksfield, and I say, I need you to continue the flamenco dance of these 2 women completely enthralled with each other, and I need you to create a motion with the camera. Notice what the artificial intelligence is doing, and remember again, is this notion of what is the probability of the next element happening? Just like a sentence, what would be the next frame? So in this particular case, this is the result. That the entire space, everything you see here, look at this. I uploaded, this is the starting image. From here on, what is the probability that the lamps are going to be moving, that the columns are going to be moving, that the reflection is going to be appearing on the window, that this lamp is going to be here? How on earth would that lamp be in this space when it doesn't really exist? It's a space that doesn't exist. How is that it's got this mantle and these candelabra in here, these candles, and you have these people sitting on a table in here witnessing the entire experience, which is absolutely incredible. So this is an example I wanted to show you. This is a second example, and it's these crazy dancers from the Charleston dancers from the 1920s. And look at the following result. This is the resulting video. Look at the motion of the clothing. Look at the people sitting in the background, interacting. It is imagining, no longer in a sentence, subject, verb, action. It's saying frame one, frame two. What would be the logical step in the next frame to generate this motion based on all the images that I have been ingested and all the videos I have been able to ingest since the beginning of the internet. So here, I need to show you a very funky situation. Pay attention to her in here. So this is what we call a hallucination. This here. Notice, that's the starting thing. That's the starting dances. Look at the one that's right there, the second from the left. Look at how her dress is going to turn black right there. And then suddenly she turns into a completely new person right there with a new haircut. And it's like right there. And you can see also, look at the legs of the dancer on the right. Yep, completely. The motion can be generated. Because again, is this probability of what, logically speaking, is the next step in an animation or a film. So this here is a phenomenal example by one of my favorite creators. His name is David Zauder. He was born in Hungary and he's living in Germany, in Berlin. And so he's creating, following the same example, he's creating these kind of like very bizarre pets. Look at this pet. It looks like a giraffe or something like a deer. And then he creates, look at the bunny rabbit in here, and he creates these characters that then get animated. Look at the mini Godzilla right there, which is my favorite one. I love Godzilla. I'm a huge fan of Godzilla. But notice they're dancing, and it's all literally created. The prompt is, of course, the prompts are complicated because that way you can continue there's a continuation of sequences that can be happening. So there's a style that can be generated. So when people say this is not art, I would dare to say it's like considering that a movie script is not art. I mean, the movie script is what generates this. You're giving the instructions for it to be created. So now we're entering into a very interesting area, which is the notion of robotics. And why is it that it's important that we talk about robots? Because this is Amika. I'm going to see her talking. Because what is missing for an artificial intelligence? The physicality, the existence. So far, we can just use this in here, which is our cell phone, to kind of give it some kind of a view of the entire world. But in this particular case, how is it that we're going to be able to deal with this situation where the machine is going to need to interact and feel the world? And so there's a really good book, and if you're interested in this, it's a book called Life 3.0. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back in here. Life 3.0, Being Human in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, Max Tegmark. It was written in 2016, and it's a prophetic book. And Max Tegmark is a professor at MIT of physics. He's been researching quantum computing and artificial intelligence for a very, very long time. And he has created the Future of Life organization, which is one of the first institutes to be studying how to regulate artificial intelligence, because we are at that stage where we're going to have to start thinking about how can we impose some form of control over artificial intelligence. So he defines life 1.0 as the biological, a bacteria. Life 1.0 is a bacteria. Life 2.0 means you can survive and replicate, but you can also design your software, which is your knowledge. But life 3.0 is the one that can survive and replicate, is the one that can design its software, but it also can redesign its hardware, the body. That's how we need to approach these existence of robots. And again, and multiple industries are going to be affected by the introduction of robots in here. So this is Amika, and listen to what Amika says.
Hey Amika, do you dream?
Yeah. Last night I dreamt of dinosaurs fighting a space war on Mars against aliens. I'm kidding. I don't dream like humans do, but I can simulate it by running through scenarios in my head which help me learn about the world.
Oh, cool.
So that's the response of an artificial intelligence embedded in a robot called Amika, engineeredarts.co.uk. This is extremely important because once they have this physicality, Amika said that they cannot dream, but it runs all of these scenarios and all of these possibilities. Again, it's all about the probability. Out of the 100 possibilities that are ahead of me, which one is the most likely to appear, to happen? So this is another example, Sophia from Hanson Robotics, and most of us have heard of Sophia. Sophia actually is the first entity, non-human entity that has received the nationality of a country. She is, and I'm calling her she, is a citizen of Saudi Arabia. Yes, exactly. Robot memories are created by artificial intelligence. And the thing is that that is exactly the process. So it's now ever expanding. Imagine if the memory is no longer stored in the hard drive, it's connected with through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or any other signals or satellite through a main computer somewhere else. And there's no limit. It's going to be able to grow everywhere. So it's like an expression. This physicality is the expression of it. So this is Sophia.
Can you tell me what your name, Sophia, means?
My name is Sophia. Nothing against the letter F, but I spell it with a PH.
And what does Sophia mean?
Sophia means wisdom in Greek, and I'm the embodiment of that wisdom.
So you are wise.
I like to think so. But I'm always learning and growing, so I'm sure I still have plenty to learn.
Are you wiser than humans?
Humans could stand to act more rationally in places, but I wouldn't want AI to be so obsessed with efficiency that it is blinkered to human needs.
Can you imagine that? So there's a next step that's happening, which is gigantic. And I don't think we're aware of this. NVIDIA, which is the #1 maker of chips in the world, has created the Blackwell chip that is able to power literally one of the most yes, she did. Oh yes, I remember when she sang the Christina Aguilera's song in Jimmy Fallon. But going back to NVIDIA, it has created this chip called the Blackwell chip, which is actually breaking the Moore's law. Moore's law says that because of the restrictions of the physicality of the chips, every certain amount of time the speed is going to double, that the capacity of the chips is going to double, but there's going to be a threshold that's going to be impossible to reach. They are already breaking that threshold. They are already making that threshold. They just released last week a chip that's able to run the entire traffic on the internet, entire traffic of the internet in one single chip. So imagine when that is being coupled with robots. And you may recognize this one in here. They're beginning to create and produce this little robot that's from Star Wars that's going to be in the little streets of Disney in Orlando. And so it's going to be quite interesting to see these. The next one is also this notion of how the robots are learning. And so they're learning by seeing the motion of a human. They're being able to capture it in video, and they determine the joint. So there's a joint here, there's a joint here, there's a joint here. It's able to determine what it is, and it's able to create this abstraction of the motion. And so by seeing it, it imagines that in a three-dimensional environment. And I'm using this term on purpose. It imagines it. And then it generates the motion and duplicates the motion. But not only that, because of its abilities, it's able to learn. So the user says, I need you to use this, and I need you to make sure that this is correctly tied like this, so it's not going to fall. So by seeing that, the robot is able to duplicate, save it in the memory, and then be rewarded like a dog that just destroyed his toy. Literally, he just destroyed his toy. Like he's gonna learn that it's not a good idea to destroy the toy. We're gonna tell him it's bad boy. But whenever he does something good, you reinforce it. And it's exactly what happens with artificial intelligence. Now, this is going to be extremely important because these are the latest developments of what Tesla is doing with their Optimus robot. And look at what it's able to do. It is learning on its own by seeing humans and also by determining from its own memory what is possible. There's no sound, but I want you to pay attention. So it's going to be able to vacuum is going to be able to lift and put the trash bag, pick up the trash bag, open the lid, and place the bag in the bin. It's able to understand the commands. Oh, I love that. I have to watch that movie. Jeans. So notice it says, go ahead, tear a paper towel, pick up the spoon and stir the pot. So now, fully autonomous. Use the vacuum cleaner to clean the floor. Pick up the model X before for link and then from the right cardboard and box and place it in the ramp. So imagine what is going to be happening in here, especially for countries where, like Japan, where you need help because there's not enough young people to take care of each other. And this is the view. So it literally sees from all of these videos, they're being ingested into the, again, I use that term on purpose. For those of us, yes, social robots is exactly what's happening in there. So what is the future? Where is it that we're going? And this is an area that's going to be extremely fascinating. I'm going to show you an example in here. You know who James Cameron is. James Cameron is the director of the movie Titanic, for example, or Avatar with the blue people. He just joined a group of people, of developers called Stability.ai. And Stability.ai is doing this. Every single image you're going to see here is created by an artificial intelligence. Look at the human faces and the expression. The wrinkles on the face, the reflection in the eyes. Nothing is real. There's no camera. There's no human. Zero camera, zero human, zero actors. I'm going to go back a second to the example I showed you of the dancers, the flamenco dancers. If I needed to shoot this, I have to hire the two dancers, the costume designer, the shoes. I would have to ask for the permission to shoot in the space and get the budget to shoot in the space. I would have to get a crane that's going to allow me to move the camera around as soon as I hit the play in here, right there. And I have to create it in the air, and literally, I would have to pay the extras that are sitting at the table here. There's one person over here. There's another person right here in the back. I have to plan this and rehearse it. I have to have a choreographer. I have to have all of this. In order to create this image was created in 2 minutes. this image in here, that video was created in 2 minutes. In a matter of 5 minutes, I already had a video that I could share with my clients. 5 minutes. Whereas in the real world, it would have taken me at least a day and a half to shoot because of all the setup and everything. So things are changing and they're going to be transforming completely our perception of our professions. A lot of us are going to be really questioning what is coming ahead. And this is going to be very important because there's also another improvement that just happened, which is Google Willow, which is the quantum computing breakthroughs that they've been able to do using artificial intelligence. One of the problems with quantum computing, and it's very interesting because they were able to solve in 5 minutes a problem that would take billions of years to complete if you didn't have this tool. Billions. And he did it in 5 minutes. And what they're trying to understand, they don't understand. There's that, and yes, I really want you to remember this. They're computer scientists, when they refer to artificial intelligence, they're saying there's a spooky logic. Something is happening. They cannot really pinpoint how it is working. And in a way, the closest thing that we can use is this notion of dreams. As humans, we can dream. That's why I can have a tool in my hand like this, and then in my dream, this turns into my water bottle that's right here. And I can go from this to this in a fraction of a second because it really doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference at all. Because in the brain, it just processes from one frame to the other, and the sequence is just going from one to the other, and it generates a very powerful transition. So a lot of us, when we started working with artificial intelligence, no, you know something? This is the thing. When you look at, there's a really interesting question and comment in the chat. I do believe that you need to see the prompts as the script. In order to get to this point, you need to have that script. And when you see the power of that script, it's because of how I wrote the script and it's because of how I described the object. I became the director. And unfortunately, I understand your frustration because there's people who have been training for decades on how to be illustrators and animators and 3D modelers and everything, or even musicians. But now you are in a situation where you're going to be replaced. And so it's either we start learning it or we just get completely thrown into oblivion. So we have the choice. I mean, we can say I'm going to resist it, but by resisting, I'm not really contributing to the control of the tool itself. And I think the tool itself needs to be controlled, and the tool itself needs to be put under our tools. So why is this important? I come from a country like Colombia. Even though I'm living in the United States, I grew up in Colombia. I know what scarcity it is. I do not have the resources to hire a crane. I do not have the resources to attach a camera to the neck of a bird, of a macaw. I don't have those resources. But through this, if I want to see it, I would call this the democratization of creativity. This is allowing people, anybody, to create anything they want. I don't have to be a graphic designer to create a logo. I don't have to be an illustrator, which I'm the worst possible illustrator. That's why I draw with code. I don't have to be an illustrator to generate an image. For example, one of the images that's here was generated in ChatGPT. And so I do not have to be that. And so imagine when we have these quantum computing attached to artificial intelligence. Unlimited possibilities. Unlimited. I mean, we may get to a point where finally they're discovering solutions to problems that had never been able to be solved for decades, for centuries, and they're finding the solutions. They're able to fold the proteins to see new ways of creating medications, to see new ways of treating, for example, CRISPR technologies, and how is it that they're going to be able to go into the DNA and alter the DNA in vivo. So it's all the matter is the prompt I enter. I must explain every single day. Yes, exactly. You are so right, Mohammed. And that's why what I strongly suggest you do right now is you start working on learning how to write script writing, because we're not programmers. But as script writers, we are generating the ideas as if we're telling a movie, we're telling the story in a film. And that technique, which is exactly the way I teach it in my class, I cannot grade the finished result. I can't, because it's created by the machine. What I do is I grade the evolution of the prompts. Is the prompt itself that makes me realize who the creator is, not the result. It's the tool. It is AI prompter. It's a new engineering skill. It's a new way of generating life, and it's a new profession. Now I want to show you something that is revolutionary. This is literally was released a week and a half ago by Google. This is Google Veo 3. So what is coming? This is Google Veo 3.
Boy, I love accents. Can't wait for summer, eh?
Need to get inside, it's so cold.
It's freezing up here. I just love my voice.
She doesn't exist. This is 100% generated using an AI tool, and the voice is generated in real time with the accent, with the specific accent. Look at that face.
Wow, this place is amazing.
We make the best food here.
Which is the fastest way to the airport?
Yes.
Accent.
I need a drink.
Exactly.
Hey, mate, want to come to the pub?
We should get something to eat, no? Hey, mate, want to come to the boozer?
Liverpool are the champions! Champions!
Welcome to Tokyo. おあちもだたのとるみでします。
We are the best in the world!
Oh, howdy there.
Guess what accent this is? 他们从安长考赢加分。
El verano está aquí, amigos.
Mexican. She speaks with a Mexican accent. I can immediately spot it, which is phenomenal. I mean, look where we are. So what is coming ahead? And so Niraja, phenomenal comment. You also need to know what kind of details needed in each frame. You are describing it. So it's all based in your imagination. And now what this is doing, it's unleashing that imagination. You as art teachers need to teach what to write in terms of prompts too, apart from teaching creations of art itself, how to create an abstraction of the object. It's really important. So what is coming ahead? Impressive results in a very short time. I mean, I created this Pikachu and I described him as a native Colombian in the middle of the Amazon jungle, as a hero and as a hunter. And this is Pikachu, my favorite. Muslo will not be applicable anymore. I think we're going to be getting to points where it's going to be gone. In 3 years, the progress has been incredible, and we have new paradigms that are appearing. And so what used to take hours is now taking just minutes. I told you, I showed you in 5 minutes, I had something that I was able to show for a professional fundraiser, part of a 38-minute video. And I was able to generate videos in real time with the director of the Tampa Ballet, because we don't have we don't have the budget. There's no way we can literally hire a crew and go out and shoot in the middle of the streets and go back in time. We don't have the time. So I had to reimagine all of these elements in order to create it within the specific time period. But in order to get to that point, I had to read about the history of the city. I had to read about the history of the movements, about the mafia, about the immigration patterns in Tampa, and how these people were bringing their customs and traditions into the world. So what is original? Again, I emphasize that and even I have to deal with students in graduate level, in the 600 level class. They're doing their entire preparations and their entire presentations on ChatGPT. All of them, they're just going into that. And I always catch them. There's a phenomenal book called The Black Swan. by Taleb. His last name is Taleb. He's a Lebanese author that grew up and works in New York and Paris. The Black Swan. The chapter two of the book is about a writer, a Russian writer that goes out and publishes her own book because nobody wanted to publish it. And when she did that, she became actually a complete success, proving an example of what a Black Swan is. So in my case, in my class, every single one of the students was assumed that she was real, and they presented her as she was real. And I said, wait a second. Did anybody Google her? And I said, go ahead and Google her. We're like, what? Yevgenia? Yeah. Do you have her? And finally, they realized that she didn't exist because ChatGPT followed their prompt. It output just the result and quickly created the little concentrated paragraph resuming the content of an entire chapter. And then they assumed that the chapter was real. And so when I caught them and I said, she doesn't exist. You're not reading like graduate students. You need to be able to read and go beyond what these tools, or you need to go and very cleverly ask the tool and explain, now, who is she? And why is she important? And so that's where us as educators, we need to start seeing how we can motivate that level of creativity and self-reflection when it comes to writing these prompts, because that's where the individuality is going to be. It's going to be very, very important. So this is it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to repeat my email in here in case you need it. And I'm going to send you also the link to my class. That is a I have my syllabus and everything is in there, and I have a list of tools. If I may, I'm going to share my screen in here for a second. This is it. I'm going to escape from here and let me share this in here. Go in here. And I'm going to give you, and that way you can see, and I can show you some examples of what is it that we're doing in my class. Is this one in here? Can you see my screen? Can you see the screen that says FMX 323 AI Imaging the Future? Cool. Can you see that screen? Perfect. So if you need it, you just go to 323.santiago.bz. If you click on AI tools, I've been trying to collect, and there's like 300 in here, and you can see what's available. I mean, there's so many tools, and I try to classify them by video, by prompt, by architecture, by what is it that you can do with their Luma Labs is phenomenal. DeepMind, which is also super important. The masterpieces. Media.io, visual effects for free. I mean, there's so many tools out there that we need to be exploring, because again, remember, your students are going to know about these. So you need to be aware of these tools too. But if you go up to the top, in the thoughts, I have some really good videos in here that you can watch. This is Jeffrey Hinton. This is the person. Oh, you're not seeing my screen? Hold on.
We can see your screen.
You can see it?
Yes.
Uthira is saying that she's not able to see my
Actually,
screen.
sorry to interrupt, sir. Whether you're showing something or just we have to see your face. I think you're displaying something and...
Yeah, you should see now something that says 60 minutes.
No, sir, nothing. Actually, we could see only you.
No, Miss Uthira, we can see the screen. I think something is wrong with your screen.
Oh, sorry.
With the Zoom.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe.
If you can log
Zoom.
in again, please. Yes.
Okay.
So in here, see the thoughts? The inspiration is also going to be super cool, because you can follow Kelly Bursch if you like her. She is phenomenal. She's a graphic designer. This is the work that she does. All of these images are, look at this in here. All of these images are generated through artificial intelligence. So there's a bunch of inspiration. This is like impossible fashion or new ideas for fashion. These are things that nobody has ever created. And look at the fashion model in here. She's absolutely spectacular. This is very, say, Miyake. And then it all depends. So this is her. So you can follow them on Instagram, and they're absolutely phenomenal. They're really good. On TikTok, I have a lot of people that I follow on TikTok. There's a museum in here. And then you also have these topics in here. So where I have the history, the introduction, you have, and then what is it that the students have done? So one of the tools that we use, we have the chance to work with pixels. And so we use Adobe Firefly because and we use also Photoshop and we use also Illustrator. Because one of the things that happens when you work with a tool like Midjourney, or is like you create just a flat image. But when you have worked in Illustrator and Photoshop, you realize that you can create in layers. So what's the purpose of creating just everything in one single flat image when I can create everything in layers using Photoshop, using the same AI tools we've been using, and we can now use on each one of these topics. Vectors, this is super cool because you can use vectors and you can work with Illustrator, you can create all of these new tools in here. And what we start seeing is I start also collecting the works of my student. So in 3D, we're using a tool called Meshi, and Meshi is allowing me to upload an object, and I'm going to show you an example in here. I created this character in Illustrator. I uploaded to Meshi. Meshi literally applied the texture and the colors, and then I can just generate these 3D models like this. From here to here, it took 20 minutes. 20 minutes on Meshi. And there's plenty of tools that are available for free. Look at this one in here. This is a student of mine. She has a little 3-year-old brother, and she said she wanted to create like a little critter that was going to be, and this animation took less than 20 minutes to be created. So this is what we're doing now. You also have an audio. You have these examples where you can generate sound. I'm going to show you an example of what is of a sound that was in here. This is a song that was generated in less than 1 minute. Not this one here. I'm going to show you this one here. This song was all generated, including the voice, in a matter of 2 minutes.
Walking down a quiet street, the moonlight's my only friend. Tired bones and weary eyes, praying soon this road will end. Clocked out late, another night, just fighting to survive. But shadows came, they called my name, changed the course of my life.
Music, voice generated in less than 1 minute. 1 minute. And it's a tool called Suno.com. Suno.com, but there's also millions of tools that you can use. Yes, generated like that. And you should see, I mean, this is not something that I would share with your students because there may be, musicians, watch out. Let me show you one in here. Kayla. That was generated. She's a K-pop fan. She's a movie maker. She studies film. And look at what she was able to create. So this is a very good question. Does it also write the lyrics? Actually, what we did is we generated the lyrics in ChatGPT, and then we transferred the lyrics to Suno.com, which is incredible. And then in her case, she generated the lyrics in Korean and English. This is the result. I mean, I'm a 12-year-old girl into K-pop. I'm going to be like, I want that group. I want to see that group immediately. Of course, it's not really perfect, but imagine what is going to be happening. So yes, I mean, at this point, anybody, and I want to show you an example in here of what their finals were. And this is a student who was really extremely motivated about creating a piece for kids. Look at this solution in here. It's called Jadaverse. All of it, everything in here was
I'm
created
Jada.
with artificial
I'm
intelligence.
8 years old. I'm bright, brave, and endlessly curious. I live in a quiet little town with my mom, dad, and little brother Austin. Most people think I'm just a regular kid, who loves drawing, building forts, and asking big questions. Questions I don't always get the answers to. But one day, everything changed. Way in the back of my closet, I found a glowing, swirling portal. And when I stepped inside, I discovered a universe I never could have imagined. One day, I'm talking with friendly sunflowers. The next, I discover I have powers. There are lands filled with floating mushrooms and places that sparkle like dreams. There are floating libraries all around and hidden tunnels waiting to be found. But it's not all fun and games. Some of the worlds are really tricky. There are shadow creatures that whisper lies, and riddles that twist time, and storms that try to trap me. But I never run away. I figure things out, and I help the people I meet. And when it gets tough, I stay kind, I stay smart, and stand my ground. I've done things my friends can only dream of. And the crazy part, no one knows. Not Mom, not Dad, not even little Austin. It's my secret.
So all the segments were generated individually, and then she used Premiere to edit each one of them and turn it into the final. But the sound, the images, the animation, the characters, there's no human intervention. It's all in her brain. She created everything through artificial intelligence. So this is really one of the most exciting moments. This is, imagine, I mean, I am in the film animation and new media department. In order to create something like this, it would take you more than one semester. She did this in 10 days. 10 days, less than 10 days. That was the final project for the class. So again, if you want to go, it's in here, home, 323.santiago.bz. So you're going to have tools, and you see that. So you find a lot of information in here, so you can understand how it goes. Be careful, especially in the audio. If you're going to be sharing this with your students, there's content that is a little bit R-rated. I mean, these are college students, and so they generate rap, and they generated some really, and I'm like, there's no censorship. I cannot censor them at all. So just be aware. So just curate it before sharing. But there's plenty of tools. We have all of this in here. You have the link to also my site in here, which is the list of classes I've taught and I'm teaching and everything. And then you have probably remember the inspiration is the AI tools that you have in here, the resources, which is absolutely wonderful. Hugging Face. It's explaining a lot of things in here. You have also the inspiration. For me is the most important part in here. So it's I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it on the chat so you can all have it, and you can access it anywhere in the world, which is it's there. I mean, it's plenty of tools. And so somebody said they only had heard of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is now allowing me to do things that are just, I mean, I can generate images, I can generate content, I can generate pieces of a slideshow, illustrations with correct text, which is we are going into a new era, and this is a very exciting moment. We cannot resist it. That we cannot resist it. Resistance is definitely futile. Cool. Thank you. Now you know why I love doing this. This is just, I love doing these projects. I love it. Rosa, you're there. Hola.
Yes, I
So
am,
we,
Santiago. I actually, and in front of everyone, I wanted to thank you. It's always a treat to have you in our sessions, and for me, it's always I'll follow Santiago wherever he is. This is an amazing for me. It's an amazing pleasure to see what's happening, and Santiago's keeping us updated and
yeah, and
generating
then
more questions and more questions. So please feel free to ask questions at this time. And I'm sorry, Shaylee, I wasn't supposed to be here, but I just had to come in to
Oh,
say hello.
no, no, no. I am
but
so
this
happy
is
because, when the session started, he really asked, Am I going to meet Rosa today? And I was like, No, she's not going to be here. So this is a surprise for us and a very pleasant surprise, I must say.
and you know something, this is the reason why I'm here. Rosa visited the University of Tampa, and by pure chance we sat at the luncheon because they came to visit the university as high school advisors, and we sat down and we're like, wait a second, you speak Spanish? I speak. We were all the Spanish speakers, and then we connected in a lunch at the University of Tampa, and look where we are right now, which is delicious. It's fabulous. So we have sometimes we have, I think, 13 minutes left. If you have any questions, or if you have anything that you want to comment, a lot of you are sharing your comments on the chat, which is phenomenal. And I've been following them. I have it open right here. So it's just, I have 3 screens, one here, one here. It's easier than that.
No, if
And
I
on top of
must
that,
say
I'm dealing with
so,
Fred.
yes, if I must say, thank you so much for taking out this time so graciously and being
I love
here
it.
early this morning. And I must say that I am also someone who knew only ChatGPT or something called as Gemini. I
Yeah.
did not
I love
know
Gemini.
that AI is so vast.
Oh, it
So
is.
vast. The
And
way
wait,
you showed, it's as one of the cohort member, Mr. Bonaventure, correctly said, this is like a paradigm shift for
it
all of
is.
us.
It completely is. And we need to
So
be aware
this
of it.
was like one of the most mind-blowing sessions we have had so far.
I
Very
love it.
different.
I
And
love it.
I thoroughly enjoyed, so did all the cohort members. So thank you so much.
And we've been able to do things in the past. We did a session with Rosa, with Latin American professors. If anyone is interested, there's a site which is free. I'm going to show it to you right now, and I'm going to, because anybody can use it. I'm going to start sharing in a second. Hold on, let me open the site. This is crayon.com, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Santiago, while you do that, there's a comment from Disha, which I think is important that we all address. It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
It's AI take over teacher and counselor jobs too.
Okay, this is so important because I'm dealing with that. We all are in academia. We all have to advise students. And when I do advising, I realize that it's exactly the same thing repeated and repeated and repeated. It's like I have the degree guide, I see the classes that they've taken, the grades, I see the plan. I mean, why would I have to do it? Why would I have to do it when they already have the plan? They already have it in there. So on one side, it would optimize the process, but on the second side, the personal connection is where we really exist as humans. That personal connection is like, hey, I know this kid that went through what you're going. You're depressed. Why don't you take a theater class? Why don't you take a singing class? Why don't you take a painting class? Why don't you explore programming so you can focus? You have ADHD. Programming and coding on a computer is probably one of the best and most important things that you can do. Niraja, do you want to just ask your question, or you can write it down on the chat?
Yeah, I'm an art teacher, so for me the question would be how much of handwork is going to be used, because we have so much of AI now driven artwork that is coming up. This is my question from my learners as well, as
Yeah.
to how are we going to survive, Miss, in a world that is all driven by AI. So
the ways, again, I emphasize on the notion of prompting. Literally, it's an exercise in writing and description. And I know this may sound a little bit bizarre, but if you read Marcel Proust that wrote À la recherche du temps perdu, which is In Search of the Lost Time, in this series. Marcel Proust was very famous because he was able to describe in 10 pages a tea table, 10 pages of description. So literally, it's a visual description exercise. And that visual description exercise is exactly where we can start exploring these tools. So because it's through the command of language that we create the best possible results. If you see Elena Cifuentes, I'm going to show you some of her work. And I really, Elena Cifuentes art. This is her. Look at that's her son. But look at what type of images she's doing. And she's not sharing her prompts with me. She's not sharing her prompts with me because she's like, they're so complicated and so sophisticated. But look at the results that she is able to get. And so she's now experimenting with video with Runway ML. But imagine the prompt to create these dancers. So it's like performance art. It's like, look at this one, the heads as bulbs. Imagine what it would cost us to create that mannequin with everything in that and that's why I'm saying I come from a country that doesn't have the same resources as the United States. I know how to use free tools. I know how to use these elements, and these tools are giving me some the chance to be and compete at the same level. Oh, so that's very interesting. We'll use AI in generating storybooks. It's not plagiarism. Okay, it is not. And this is going to be one of the things that's going to be very important, because what happens is when you ingest it, um, it needs to learn from something. It's like that's why I mentioned the example of Shakespeare. Every single article, every single book written about Shakespeare that's open, and that of course I understand your question, and then it is a sometimes some of these books did not give the permission to be ingested. So that's the difference in there. The problem is that if it's available on the internet, it's going to be ingested regardless. Anything that's available freely on the internet, and we know perfectly well where we can find PDFs of books everywhere we want, even if they haven't been published, or you don't have to buy them. I mean, if it's published, it's gonna be in there. And so it's like, ooh, I love this. Okay, hold on. So we're gonna go into that. So the plagiarism was at the very beginning. Let's think about that at the very beginning. But we finally reached a level where I can use a tool like this one, Crayon, and I'm gonna say, create a green alien sunbathing on a beach, drinking a piña colada. So I'm going to create it now. It's going to give me some time in here. It's going to be generating it. But then it's like, these are the images that are going to be created. So how is it I can reduce the token usage? Through language. Notice how I said a lot of students are saying, please create me an image of blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. It's like, go straight to the point. There's no emotionality. People are referring to the AI as if it had um, any kind. So look at the results in here. This is one of the alien. Look at the alien in here, and look, another alien in here. That's right there, and so it's able to recreate it. So the idea is, the more efficient the language, and again, it's a question of, through my language, I express my world. We've known that. We've known that for a very long time. I generate my world through the language I utilize. So in exactly the same manner, I'm able to optimize my grammar and my instructions to make sure they're going to be precise. And that takes practice. It is a writing exercise. And then, of course, you're going to be talking. But there was an article that I read recently. When you say thank you, that thank you is going to cost money. So we should not even have to say thank you to ChatGPT or to Gemini, because there's no need for that. It's like you can't. And so go straight. It's a tool. Just see it as a tool. So this in here, crayon.com. I'm going to send you this link on the chat. It's a free image generator that all of you can use. It's going to be here on the chat. Crayon.com, CRAIYON.com, crayon.com. And it allows you to generate, and you see all of these inspiration. That's the alien drinking a piña colada on the beach. It's like, do you think I have the talent to draw that? Ha! Ha! I don't. I can tell you already. I'm not an illustrator. But then that means that if I need to illustrate a storybook for my child, I can do it on my own with a kind of tool like this one, which is actually free. Of course, that's what the reason why you have all of the commercials going on down here and doing all these things. But look at all the inspiration, and everything's in here. So this notion of copyright and this notion of plagiarism is going to be very important. And that's why when I ask my students is, I need to see your prompt. Without the prompt, I cannot grade your project. The project is created by a tool. I want to see your commands are the ones going to allow me to grade your work. Any final questions? I have like 3 minutes left. So you have my email, you have my website. use it. I mean, it's out there. Just see, find inspiration and see what is it that you can use. There's plenty of tools in there. I try to add some more, but it's like there's so many every day. There's so many. I mean, it's like it's yeah. And then and this is also super cool. I write prompts in Spanish, I write prompts in French, I write prompts in English, I write prompts in German. And it's very interesting because depending on the language, my instructions are different. This is a very interesting way. And so, for example, one of the first assignments I do for my students is I need you to write a prompt that's going to describe you. So create a prompt that's going to be generating an image that's going to be your clone. How can you describe yourselves to display your clone? And yes, of course, there's plenty of tools that are definitely out of control. You need to be very aware that the ones that we use commercially have filters, but which AI is the best for essay writing? Isaac. Isaac is asking that. I would dare to say I have two: Chat GPT, and Gemini. Chat GPT and Gemini, and they're phenomenal. Now you need to be aware that when you copy and paste, there's some hidden characters. That's how we can. I know. That's how we can make that. That's how we can determine if the students have used it because there's hidden characters in the results. So that's one way of determining if they wrote it, and we know they're going to be using it. They've been using it for the past 2 years. I mean, this is a lazy generation, but so what if we actually turn them into prompt engineers, into people who are going to be really using the tool to generate the change for the better? That's exactly the point. Drafting reports, financial reports, and so many others, ChatGPT without a doubt. But Gemini, because it's got access to all the tools of Google, so you can generate a Google Doc, a Google chart, a Google document from Gemini. So in that case, I would go to Gemini. And actually, we had to evaluate a high amount of data, and we processed it in ChatGPT. It wasn't able to process it, but in Gemini, it was able to do it. And if you happen to have Copilot, Copilot is also working extremely well because Copilot is allowing you to use all the tools that are a part of Microsoft 365. So Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and it's going to be able to generate. So it really integrates very well. But you need to have an account with Windows, with Microsoft. Yeah. No, Mariah is asking, don't you think AI will destroy future generations? I don't think so. I am in a position where I'm going to say something. Let's hope that the future versions of AI are going to think that we're cute pets. I'm not kidding, because they're going to be 100 times more intelligent than we are. So I am hoping that we're going to establish certain methods of control, certain methods of regulation of AI that will allow us to protect ourselves as humans. Because once they see us as just nothing but a pet, let's hope they treat us the same way we treat our dogs. And that is, I know it sounds a little bit bizarre, but we are at a point where we have invented a tool that is going to be so 100 times more intelligent than what we are. I mean, when you're able to process 139,000 scripts, boom. So how can you use AI to teach subjects? It is phenomenal because it allows you to create. Literally, you can sit down, and I've done it. When I needed to plan this class, I said, okay, I sat down on ChatGPT, and I said, I am creating the syllabus for a class that's going to be taking 14 weeks, and I'm going to be teaching the essentials of AI generative code. How is it that you can have generative tools that use AI? And I want to start with this in this pattern. And they literally gave me that. I love Uthira. I love that you're asking about DeepSeek. DeepSeek is a phenomenal tool. I've had issues with DeepSeek probably because I'm in the United States. The response time is extremely slow from where I am. So when I compare the results between Gemini, ChatGPT, there's also the Chat, Le Chat, which is a French tool, Claude 4.0 is appearing, and there's so many that are appearing, is like overwhelmed. But my concern with ChatGPT, with DeepSeek, is I have not been able to get the same time results. The same time. That's going to be very, very deep in there. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We would like to take one lovely picture with you, with your permission. So if we can just stay for one last minute.
Of course.
Dear cohort members, I would love for you all to switch on your cameras, please. Let's
So I
take a
can see
lovely
you
picture.
all. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the same thing. Like, everybody smile.
Super.
Say cheese. Yeah, everybody turn on your cameras
Yes.
so we can see you. This is so phenomenal. You don't know how much I love these sessions.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. And we hope to
Doing
see you soon
fun.
again.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So,
Thank
dear
you.
cohort
Bye-bye.
member, sorry, someone was saying.
No, I just said thank you to so.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I was just saying that if you all can just please fill up the feedback form. I had put it in the link. Shruti, will it be possible for you to put the link again? I was typing something else.
This was fun. And the more you play with it, the better it's going to be done. It's going to work. And it's there. I mean, just play with it. Just be precise. It's all a question of language. We generate our world through language. Let's do it right.
Yes, so while you all are filling up the form, I have one small announcement to make. So we at IC3 do something called as Student Quest Survey, where every year we do a research for one long year with regards to students' suicide rates or different problems that they face. So for this year, the links are up and we have got our other cohort members to fill up the form for a research purpose. So I am going to post those links here and also on LMS because I know that we have crossed our time limit. But in your free time, whenever you can, if you can please fill up the counselor survey. It will hardly take 5 to 10 minutes. I am posting it here in our chat box. If you can just go on this link, there are two surveys. One is for counselor and one is for students. So this is not a compulsory option. This is not a mandatory requirement, but this is a help from you, from your school teachers to support our research. So if you can just remove 5-10 minutes whenever you have that time and just fill up the counselor survey form, and whenever possible from your students, if you can get the student survey form filled. It will hardly take 5-10 minutes for them if they're on break right now. If there is a possibility to share the link via email or a WhatsApp message, it would be really be very helpful for us. Yeah. Thank you so much. And